Good evening, everyone. I've got a stand now for my microphone. Yeah, hopefully the sound is better like this. Let me know if it sounds better. So Silver Form is here. Oh, that's good. Because I used to put the microphone on the desk, but I watched a video about using the microphone, and yeah, I bought a stand for it. You can't see it, but it's over here, and I bought this as well. So hopefully it's a lot better, more professional. I have to admit, I've been. This is not my business. The how can I say media? I was in the markets in finance, so everything that I've done has been self-taught in this line of work. So hopefully it's improving slowly but surely. So we've got Spare a Dime. We've got Music Lover. Cashed in his pension to buy gold in March. Oh, Mr. Guppy says I got a windscreen. Yeah. I watched this video. This woman, she was really good, and she had the same microphone, and she had one of these as well. So called a windscreen. Good evening, Cozy Fantute. Dr. Wolfgang Schosser. Good evening. Cupid Stupid. Evening. Billy No Mates is here. Unfortunately, he's blocked by the microphone, but he is here. Cupid Stupid from Warrington. Yeah. Girl OG from Norway. Girl OG, do you listen to Bjorn Andreas Bo Hansen? I like him, the Viking guy. Global Nonsense is here. Magic Torch. I saw that Rumpelstiltskin is around. He's all the way from Japan. There he is. Brady Girding. So yeah, we got quite a few people already. So yeah, the GLD story that is the title of the live stream. I think it's quite significant that the GLD and the World Gold Council basically they fudged their annual report that was published on September 29th. It's called a 10K, and I highly recommend you read the story because I'm going to go over it in broad terms. But it's from Ronan Manley at Bullion Star. He writes some good stuff about gold, and he combed through the whole accounting thing. And prior to the 10K report, they have quarterly reports, which are called 8K. And in those reports, they actually said that they were holding physical gold at what they call a sub-custodian. And the sub-custodian is the Bank of England. And apparently they had about 70 million or even 6% of their holdings. I think it was 70 million ounces with the Bank of England. And that was reported in the 8K, which is a quarterly report. But for their 10K report, which was end of September, they put nothing in it. And yeah, they didn't even have a link to the special spreadsheet where they put all the positions, which they'd had for the previous years since 2010. So I think they're hiding something. What else did he say? Let me have a look here. But I think it's significant. It means that they probably didn't have enough physical gold for GLD, and they basically apparently in this report they didn't put the amount that they held with sub-custodians. They put KPMG, who's their accountant, basically wrote they held some gold at sub-custodians. And we know that when you're writing an accounting report, you don't write some, you have to write the number, right? The other thing that's really interesting, I'm going to read here quickly. is about the CFO of GLD. So let's have a look here. Covering the, he calls this alarm bells. He says covering the financial year to September 30th. This GLD 10K should be raising alarm bells at the SEC, given the principal financial and accounting officer, CFO, who signed off on it. Bretton Woods had only been in the CFO position at GLD sponsor for 1 day prior to GLD financial year end. So this guy was appointed on September 29th. They had to publish the financial year-end report on September 30th. And the most interesting thing is that the previous CFO, she resigned on the 29th, Laura Melman. So it says here, to put it another way, the GLD trust sponsors previous principal financial accounting officer, CFO, Laura Melbourne, resigned from her CFO role at WGTS, World Gold Trust Services, on September 29th, 2020, 1 day prior to GLD's 30th of September financial year end. So it's very suspicious, very suspicious. And one thing I've been saying, you might have noticed in some of my videos, and you probably have noticed as well, because a lot of you of course follow gold, and you might have adverts running in your computer, and I do sometimes. I've seen a lot of World Gold Council advertising about gold, and the World Gold Council, funnily enough, they push gold, but they push GLD because they're one of the they're involved. They're one of the sponsors, I think, or of GLD. They're basically they're involved with it, and so they're pushing a lot the ETF, and it's been particularly in the last few months. And I thought it was strange. All of a sudden, they're pushing for people to buy ETFs, because I think they want to drive people away from buying the physical, because there's a huge physical demand, and they don't want to give up the physical. The bankers and the bullion banks, central banks, they can't allow the public to get involved in physical. And that's why I keep telling people you need to have physical if you really want to defeat the central banks, which is one of my goals, really, is to always fight against these people. Now, Billy is here. It's just that he's behind the microphone now. I need to maybe next time I'll put the microphone on the other side, and you'll be able to see Billy. It just was more comfortable for me on this side. Graham, yeah, I think it sounds better, because I have had this microphone, but I placed it on the desk, and apparently is not the best way to use that microphone. So I bought like a stand for the microphone on Amazon, and I bought this as well. So I think it sounds better, hopefully. Yeah, Pablo, I'm going to put it on the other side next week. Billy is here. Maybe you can hear him snoring. Well, hold on. Let's see. Billy, come here, bud. Just say hi to everyone. I just woke him up. There you go. Say hi, Billy. Yeah, okay. There you go. He's back on the sofa now. Billy, does he do dishes? He does. You know, when he eats, all dogs are pretty greedy. His bowl is clean after he eats. So, and actually, he had a problem with his eyes the last couple of months. He's recovered completely, and he's actually eating a lot better. And so that's a good sign. Solar wind hack, have no opinion on that. I think all these things are big distractions. We follow the money on this channel mostly, but and maybe That's another reason why you want to be outside the system. That's why you want to have physical gold and silver, especially with these hacks. Casting grain, I guess casting grain, for those who don't know, they're the kind of raw material gold that jewelers buy, I guess, selling for 2,264 an ounce. That's a lot. That's a lot. Big premium. Yeah, Billy does the Shih Tzus. They do look like the Ewoks a little bit. That's true. Uh, Brady girding. I think if we get down to 30 to 1, um, it doesn't really matter where gold is, but I think gold would be higher than 2,500 if the gold silver ratio gets to 30 to 1. I think we need to worry not so much about the fiat price of precious metals. What we need to worry about is the purchasing power of precious metals, because even though I think the central banks, they're going to keep inflating. And I was reading an article, interesting article by Alistair McLeod, about the fact that the big problem now is bankruptcies, failures, the supply chain, and that the Federal Reserve will have to create trillions and trillions. I mean, QE is going to look like a picnic. So I think the fiat currencies are doomed, really. In 07, 08, the economy was hit hard because of the housing market collapse triggered by the subprime mortgage lending. And I just watched, prior to this live stream, I watched The Big Short. It's probably the fourth or fifth time I've watched that movie. And I think that movie is very good to help people understand what's going on, because nothing's changed since The Big Short. But I think The Big Short now is the whole monetary system, is the dollar, is all the other fiat currencies. It's going to be a complete currency collapse, and that's why you need to be outside the system. I mean, that's why, for example, my mining share positions is not a big percentage of the bullion that I hold, because I think even if mining companies do well, um, yeah, there could be difficulty with having shares. Not that the price will go down, not that those companies won't do well, but yeah, I think if you've watched it before, it's also all about the psychology, all about uh, the fraudulent nature of the system. Nothing's changed. You've seen that the SEC has accepted this 10K report from GLD. I mean, if you or I ran a company, a small company, and we had to give in our accounting reports, it wouldn't be accepted what GLD did. But GLD, the World Gold Council, the LBMA, these people are all involved. People need to understand that the GLD ETF is an instrument of the bullion banks and the central banks. The guy who heads the World Gold Council as well, he's in the committee for the Bank of England and the LBMA. So, and he used to work for Goldman Sachs. So I think people really need to be careful where, with GL ETFs in general, even though some people, and me as well to some extent, trust Sprott Asset Management or Sprott Gold and Silver. But in the end of the day, try as hard as possible to have uh, physical gold or silver outside the system. Try to find a safe storage for it. That's what I say. Yeah, I made someone talked about Uranus, the planet. tomorrow is like this great conjunction. I made a video yesterday. Some people thought, why are you getting involved in astronomy? But there are a lot of people in the markets that follow astronomy. It's not astrology, it's the planets more. And even though I don't follow it too much, but it's just that I was listening about this great conjunction tomorrow. It's one that hasn't happened. I mean, it happens every 20 years, but uh, how close the planets are, it hasn't happened in like 400 years. And I was listening to a video about that because I was curious, not because I was trying to see if it was going to affect the markets, but then the professor from the University of Exeter in the UK, he said that there was a triple. Sometimes it comes in threes, and the last time it came in threes was 1981, and prior to that was 1941. And a few days before, I'd been looking at the long-term cycles in the 10-year yield, and I noticed that a 10-year yield topped in 1981 at almost 16%, and it bottomed in 1941 below 2%. And I thought, wow, that matches this great conjunction. And I made a video about that, and I got some comments saying, "Oh, what are you doing? You know, this is silly." But the planets and the planet, the planet we live in, the planets that rotate around the sun, it's all part of nature. It maybe does affect things the way people think. I don't think you can count it out, or maybe it's coincidence. I guess in 5 years' time, let's say, if the 10-year yield doesn't go back below where it's been this year, or maybe even next year, I said it could still go lower next year. Let's say 5 years from now, 10-year yield is at 3, 4, 5%. Maybe maybe people will think differently about the great conjunction. Magic Torch. How many ounces of gold do you think would be an average yearly wage in the future? Well, it depends what country you live in. I would say the best way to look at it is go back, Google about average wage in the US, let's say prior to 1933, like in the beginning of the 1900s. And if, let's say, I don't know how much it was back then, let's say it's $100, uh, you know, a month, then you know that it was around 5 ounces of gold. So that's how I would look at it. But I don't know what the salary will be in terms of gold. And But it's getting a lot lower in terms of fiat. It's getting more and more unaffordable gold. So the fiat is not keeping up. I was speaking to someone in a local shop that I go to, the guy who runs the shop, and he said, an Indian guy, surprisingly, and he said, what do you think about gold, Mario? And I said, yeah, you need to keep accumulating it. You should know, being from India. And I told him, if you took 1,000 pounds in 2002, you could buy about 4 ounces of gold. But if you left that 1,000 pound in the bank, it would still be 1,000 pounds, but you'd be buying a lot less than you could today with that 1,000 pounds. But if you bought those 4 ounces, it would be almost worth 6,000 pounds. So that's what it does. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen in terms of wages. Wages in fiat are getting a lot lower, unfortunately, and they're going to continue to get lower in real terms. And I think if you're able to save in precious metals, I think it's a good thing worth doing. Not to, I'm not saying you're going to be rich or anything, but you're going to be protected financially in the future. Graham Hobbs says that Venus rules money. Okay, so I guess tomorrow it's Jupiter and Saturn. They're coming in line if you're looking from the Earth. So Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe it's coincidence that we had these key levels in the bond market. I just thought it was interesting. Comrade says he wants to be rich. Well, uh, only you can, become rich or wealthy. I can't tell you how to do it. I don't even know you. And I'm not sure, some people, I think things are changing. Being comfortable and peace of mind. Yeah, it's better to have some wealth saved than being poor. And but yeah, I think the mentality needs to change. I think if you do something that you enjoy, something that you're good at, something that you have how can I say, a skill in, and you try to add value or utility to the public, then I think you do well. I don't think you should worry about the money. The money will come if you're doing something that you like and that you actually, create value for other people. And other people are going to do something that you like that you can't do. That's called specialization. Uh, Jim Diggs, why does Lynette Zhang have so many more subs than you? I don't know. I don't know when she started. She might have started. I've been doing this since 2016. She might be doing it for longer. But if you go on my YouTube channel, it says that it started in 2013. But that's when I set up, when I became, I went on to YouTube. But I only started making the videos beginning of 2016, basically. Thoughts on Bitcoin? Well, go onto my YouTube channel under videos and type Bitcoin. I've made 85 videos or more about Bitcoin. I'm not going to go over Bitcoin again here. I heard someone comment because I made a video a few days ago about Bitcoin and gold and silver. And I said what I, what I feel about Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is, how can I say, it reminds me because I was watching, The Big Short, and the greed that people had. They're buying homes, 95% mortgages. They were taking adjustable rate mortgages. The brokers were like allowing the borrowers to self-certify. There's a lot of greed, and I think there's a lot of greed in the cryptocurrency space. Uh, I think a lot of people in the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space, they know about the sound money and how, the fiat currencies are just, doomed, and that they're doing it as a sound money investment, so to speak. But I think there's a lot of FOMO and a lot of, I'm not, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. But I think personally, uh, for me, my personality, the way I think, I'm much more comfortable with precious metals. Yes, gold and silver haven't done as well as Bitcoin this year, but they've done a lot better than most other cryptocurrencies. And yeah, I think Bitcoin's around 24,000 now, but we could very easily go down to 20, 18,000 like in a couple of days. That's how Bitcoin works. Jane Northup, yeah. Ted Butler says silver could go Tesla once the shorts are covered. I agree. I mean, I recommend you guys watch. Maybe you heard me earlier, but some of you who just come on, watch The Big Short again, because um, they thought those guys who bet against the housing market were crazy. They were saying, "Oh, housing never goes down. Uh, you're crazy to do that." The banks that wrote this credit default swaps for them, they're laughing behind these guys' backs. And I think it's the same thing for us in the precious metals, sound money space. Uh, I think we're going to be proven right, even though, of course, life is never certain, and I could be wrong. But from all the research, all the work, all the reading that I've done, I truly think that the dollar and all the other fiat currencies are going to collapse. It's difficult to say when, but that's the next big crisis. That's the next big short, and it's going to be through hyperinflation. And everyone says, "Oh, it can never happen, hyperinflation." Well, those are the same people who said that subprime or the housing market couldn't collapse. The boss of the fund manager, is it Michael Berry? He said, "Well, Alan Greenspan and Hank Paulson said everything's okay. And do you know more than they do?" And he actually said, "Yes, I do." So that's what I think. Gur Olgi says only the winners write history. Yeah, but I think they didn't write history back in '08. The whole fraudulent subprime Wall Street operation, was exposed. And I think the currency system that we have, well, actually, John Exter, who's a really interesting guy, was a central banker. After 1971, he said, "We don't have a monetary system anymore." He said it was a non-system. So there you go. It's a non-system because there's no money behind their monetary system. It's all on credit. It's all fiat currency. LFC Liverpool. I know Bitcoin is fixed at 21 million. But I actually think that's not a good thing, because money has to be rare, but it can't be too rare, because that's the reason why Picassos are not money. But gold is rare, but its supply keeps growing, and it will keep growing. And it doesn't mean to say that it's worse than Bitcoin. Uh, he says it's nonsense. Okay. Well, you need to do a bit of research, LFC Liverpool, because gold, the gold supply has been growing since the beginning of times, roughly by 2% a year. And that's why it's still money, right? Like JP Morgan said, gold is money, everything else is credit. But yeah, 21 million. Who decided that 21 million bitcoins is enough? Um, Gold and silver, no one decided. Nature decided that gold and silver is enough. The market decided that the best money is gold and silver, and it has been for thousands of years. Well, he says I need to do my research. Okay. Well, I mean, there you go. Yeah, gold. Yeah, the gold supply goes up 2% roughly with the world population. That's why it's been such a good store of value for thousands of years. Gold, but I've listened to Pierre Lassonde. I think he spoke to Stansbury's research, Daniela Camboni, a few weeks ago, and he said that. It's been 20, 30 years since they found a really big gold find. But the thing with gold is that the stock to flow ratio is like 84 years. So even if there was a huge gold find, it wouldn't affect the price of gold. Maybe locally where they found the gold. There you go. Anyway, enough of Bitcoin. Let's talk about other things, more important things. Uh, Oh yeah, this is an article here. I'm going to put a link. Uh, I guess you'd have to have though a subscription to read this from the FT, but I'll put it there nonetheless. Um, and the article says a giant bonfire of taxpayers' money, fraud, and the UK pandemic loan scheme. This is another example of how the taxpayer always ends up paying for all these schemes from Wall Street and government. And this is talking about these business protection loans, these that they've come up because of the pandemic. And they guarantee the government is guaranteeing these loans, and it's up to £50,000. And it looks like, and it's been extended as well by the chancellor. And it looks like there's a lot of fraud, and they didn't do the due diligence to make sure there wasn't fraud. And it looks like the banks, they're going to have to chase those loans. I think they're going to start having to pay the interest from May next year, but it's going to end up being lumbered on the taxpayers. And I think it's going to be more than, according to the article, is more than 40 to 50 billion pounds. Sorry, and the same thing is happening in other countries, in the EU, in the US. So it just goes to show how, everything the governments and the central banks do is not for our benefits. If anything, the average person, the taxpayer, gets lumbered with it. They don't feel it right away, but the way we feel it is through the inflation, through the cost of living going up. That's how it's going to be. And that's why, personally, I have as little fiat currency as possible in my bank account, because by having fiat currency there, it's not your money. It's an unsecured loan to the banks, to the governments. So yeah, and I would say try to get out of your paper assets as well. Personally, I think that's a good thing, because you're helping finance the banks. You're helping finance Wall Street. Yes, a lot of us have been caught in the trap of putting our savings into IRAs, they're called in the US, or SIPs in the UK. But I think we're near a period where paper money and the whole system is going to implode. And I think it's worthwhile maybe thinking about getting some of that out and putting it in real things. Could be anything tangible, but also precious metals, of course. Grow Mechanic says, don't fight the Fed. Well, I don't think the Fed is, I don't think they're going to, not even the Fed can cover things up forever. I don't think. LFC Liverpool. Yeah, the whole gold and silver market are manipulated, but they can't do it forever. If they could, the price of silver, the ounce of silver, would still be like less than $2, and the price of gold would still be $35. Eventually, the bullion banks are going to be they're going to be the ones buying all the gold and silver. Yeah, Christopher, I heard that gold created when stars collided. It's God's money. I agree with you. I agree with you. And silver as well is pretty good money. Jordan Netburn. Hi, Jordan. I agree with you. There is taxation and early penalties, but what if that IRA becomes worthless? Then you would have probably been happy to have taken out as much as you could with the taxation and the penalties. I took some of my SIP out last year, and I had to pay the tax. I had up to 40% was tax free, and the rest I had to pay some tax on it. It's not nice. But you see, when you put the money into IRAs or here in the UK private pensions, they say, "Oh, we're going to give you a tax break," but they get it back when you cash out. So I don't know what the policy is in the US. If you can try to say that you don't want to put money into your IRA and just say, no, I don't want to put anything in an IRA. I want to put it in whatever I want. I want to invest it. I think in the UK, you can put your SIP into properties. You can SIP, you can buy real estate with your SIP. I don't know if you can do that with the IRA. Miles, what are the thresholds to look out for in the dollar? The dollar index, you mean? Um, well, I think there's a level at 82. I think that was the low. There's a lower. Let me have a look at the chart here. Yeah, let's see, dollar index. Yeah, there's a low from beginning of 2018 at 88.25. I think that's the key. We might find a little bit of support at 88.25, but if it breaks that, the next level is going to be like 80. There's not much support after 88.25 in the dollar index. Yeah, I know, Rick Parker. There are satoshis to a Bitcoin, but it's still the supply of Bitcoin is still limited just to 21 million. You could have satoshis in gold grams, um, especially if you use, like, let's say, the Glint app. You can buy as little as 1 pound worth of gold, and it doesn't cost you much. If you try to buy a pound worth of Bitcoin, you can't because the fees are so high. Uh, Damien J, do you agree that Asia is the continent with the most options to build your capital in terms of capital gains tax and cost of living? Um, I don't know what the tax situation is in Asia. I think Asia has outperformed the West, and why is that? I think it's because Asia, had a lot to catch up in terms of development, and I think the Asian people in general are more hungry to improve their lot. They didn't have like a social welfare state like we've had in the U.S. and Western Europe for the last 60 years. So they had to go out and work and earn their money and save. And yeah, so I think they've caught up, of course, a lot with the West, and but I don't know about. Um, I think you can. I try to look at opportunities, not geographically. I'm sure there are opportunities as well here in the UK, in the US, but you're probably right. There's a lot more opportunities in emerging markets, but the taxation policy, I don't know. One country I know that doesn't tax capital gains is Switzerland, but it's a very rich, it's a very expensive country to try to go and live in. So, and I think a lot of the offshore tax havens as well, of course. Let's see. So yeah, I think this story that I've read in the FT about the pandemic loan scheme and fraud. This is happening all over the world, and I think it's going to be a big scandal going forward for the next 10 years because these loans are like long-term loans, and we're going to be lumbered with it. Uh, oh, what else is going on? It looks like you know the uh, the the fiscal stimulus deal is going to go through tonight. It looks like you're going to pass 900 billion plus another 1.4 trillion that was of spending. So yeah, the money tap is increasing again. On the fiscal side. Roseberry FH, how is my golf game? I haven't played much lately because the weather hasn't been great here. It's been raining a lot. But yeah, I play off about 7, my handicap right now. It's 6.6, so it's just on the edge there, going back to 6. But this year, I mean, it's been on and off with the lockdowns. But I had one good round this year. I think it was around September time where I actually shot 2 over par and I parred the last 11 holes. Didn't make any birdies, but I don't think it's been a very long time since I'd made 11 pars in a row. Helsinki, what are your thoughts on self-managed pension funds? Yeah. The thing about pension funds, with my SIP, I found that the fees were so huge. I had a self-managed pension. It's just called a SIP here in the UK, and you have the manager, and then you have the broker that you use, and then sometimes there's a second broker, and you're paying fees to the broker, fees to the manager. Uh, if I was younger, if I was back in my 20s when I started doing a private pension and everything, I wouldn't have done it. My wife agrees as well. I would have, if I knew what I know now, I would have been buying sovereigns, little gold coins. And yeah, and I know the governments and the financial system, they try to entice you with ISAs and all these things just to keep you in the game, in the paper game. I would say the best investment to make is in yourself, in your family. Yes, maybe if you are familiar with a company and it is in the stock market, then maybe do it. But ISAs as well, these are like tax-free accounts that we have here in the UK. I think the limit is £20,000 a year. But even that is in danger of being raided because of all the debt and deficit spending that we've had in the last 9 months. Rebel County thinks gold will reach 2,000 before Christmas Day. I guess it'd have to be this week. I mean, it's not out of the realms of possibility. We are very close to 1900 last week. I think the high was around 1893, 1895, which is, I think, the 100-day moving average. That moving average has probably dropped a little bit. I think we close around 1881 on Friday. We have to see where it opens this week, tonight. Markets open in about an hour and 20 minutes. Well, the paper market, that is. David Boozman, love your videos, Myra. Thank you so much for the education. Can you say simply what I can convince my friends and family to trade their fiat for hard money? um, I mean, if you've spoken to them many times and they're not convinced, there's no, then, you've done your best. Just try to, I would take out, I don't know where you are, if you're in the UK or US, but it also works in the US. Take out a banknote and show them, in the UK, it says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of. explain to them that that used to be like a promissory note for real money, which is gold coins and silver coins, and then explain to them how uh, that's not so anymore, and that they can create those pieces of paper out of infinitum. Uh, Maybe explain it to them like that. I don't know. Joker Alpha, thank you for your super chat donation. Have you heard of how the currency is managed upon the purchase of Bitcoin? Is it just stored somewhere or is it invested? Uh, well, you mean your currency? Well, it's just like anything else. You know, you when you buy an ounce of gold from the dealer, you pay the dealer with your fiat, and that's it. And he gives you the Bitcoin. He gives you the gold. It's the same thing for Bitcoin. If you go to an exchange where you can exchange fiat currency for Bitcoin, the exchange will take your fiat currency and they'll send you and you'll get the Bitcoin. But you got to make sure you take that Bitcoin and send it to your private wallet. Never keep your cryptocurrencies in exchanges. Don't recommend that. So it's just an exchange of fiat currency for Bitcoin. That's all it is. Yeah, Justin Timber says, don't forget to hit the like button. I haven't seen some of the moderators today. They don't seem to be here. We've got another Migto Matty, saying if rice is $20 for 5 kilos and it goes to 40, you have saved 100%. Great investment. The other thing I was reading today from you guys probably seen I've interviewed Rafi Farber from the Endgame Investor. He's noticed there's a lot of commodities going into backwardation now. Even sugar, wheat, soybeans. That's a bad sign for the dollar. That just means that people would rather have commodities than dollars in the short term, because what happens to commodities usually is the price for future delivery of commodities is usually higher for spot delivery, because you have to store. There's cost of storage and the cost of interest on the dollars that you give up. So right now it's the opposite. It's costing more to get commodities uh, in the now than in the future, and usually that could happen because there's a shortage of the commodities, but there isn't. So the flip side of it, as Rafi explains, is that people don't want to have dollars. So that's a very interesting sign, I think, that we need to keep an eye on. The backwardation. And I think if all commodities go into backwardation, which it looks like they're going, and even gold and silver can go into backwardation, that's a very bad sign for the whole monetary financial system. Have some water. Mark Wales, how can Bitcoin be a store of value if it's priced in fast depreciating US dollars? Well, if the dollar goes, if all fiat currencies go, I guess Bitcoin will be priced against other things. People are going to say, I'll have that Bitcoin for, I don't know, for a Rolex, one Bitcoin. But I think ultimately it will be priced versus gold, because gold has been the best measure of value for thousands of years. So I think when the fiat currency system collapses, there'll be a rush to gold, Bitcoin, and other cryptocurrencies, they're going to be left in the dust. They'll still be worth something. They're better than fiat, but I think gold and silver will be the place to be. Unfortunately for LFC Liverpool, Bitcoin is not liquid, and it's not gold. LFC Bitcoin is air, really. Um, I mean, you might use that little gold coin with a B on it for Bitcoin, and I'm not having a go at Bitcoin, but uh, gold is the most marketable or most liquid commodity ever. People anywhere will accept gold. Bitcoin, I'm not so sure. A lot of people have never heard of Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. Uh, Everyone in the world knows what gold and silver is. Yeah, music lover. It looks like they are gonna approve that 900 billion stimulus. Uh, you know, uh, you can be sure that it's not going to stop all the stimulus and the money printing. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I think precious metals are going to keep going higher, or the dollar is going to keep going lower, and the euro and the pound. Yes, the dollar is weak right now versus other fiat currencies, but they're going to catch up. As I've said, and I wrote that article back in 2007, all fiat currencies are sinking versus gold. That's the only way they can devalue the dollar. It has to be versus real things. IMF bailed out Egypt. Okay. Hadn't heard about that. UBI is coming. Well, hopefully, the people watching this channel won't need UBI because they will be independent, self-reliant, and sovereign. Because UBI is really for slaves, I would say. Miles, how will you maneuver your mining position in a hyperinflation environment? Well, I think they will do well. The miners, uh, even in a hyperinflation. I guess there is a danger that the brokers that I have the miners with could go bust, but that's probably a reason to ask for paper certificates, stock certificates. I'm thinking about doing that. I don't know if they will provide that service though. XRP freak. Yeah, banks don't want gold because they don't know what gold is. The banks, but you go to any gold dealer or coin dealer or jeweler, they'll buy your gold anywhere in the world. I've never had a problem selling gold if I need to sell gold. Yeah, Ross Martindale, you're right. Voltaire said that, didn't he? All paper currencies return to their intrinsic value, zero. Damien J, if you look at the supermarket ads from the 70s on Google and compare them to now, you see a 300% increase in products like milk and keep. Yeah, no, I mean, and you also have shrinkflation, Damien, as well. And the quality, usually during an inflationary or even hyperinflationary period, quality goes down of products. Yeah, Billy is snoring as usual. Dmitry Shmerkovich, thank you for your super chat. Why should I get paper certificates? If not, what's three next best thing? Well, paper certificates for your stock certificate, because now it's electronically certified. But if you're concerned that there will be a financial calamity in the system, your broker could go bust, and you might not get your shares in the companies, even though they might be doing well. So yeah, it's just for peace of mind. But the thing is, if you have the stock certificate, if you want to sell that stock with a broker, you're going to have to send it back to the broker. So it used to be that people used to get their stock certificate, paper certificate. I think in the US is the DTCC who keeps all stock. I think State Street Bank is involved as well in that. Yeah, that's right, DMC. They do lend out your shares for people who short the stock. SW wants gold at 2,000 pounds. Well, you have to be patient. I remember back in when I first bought some gold in 2002, it was 220 pounds. And it was only 2005 and 6 that it started moving, really going up. So I think we will get to 2,000 eventually, of course, gold in terms of pounds. I think that's where it could be. If we go to $2,500, we could be around 2,000 pounds. SC came in late. Huge coincidence that the virus mutated in the UK just before Brexit deadline. Yeah, and also just before Christmas. I mean, this story, is all really crazy. What's going on this year? I think we are witnessing collapse of society right now, and that's why they're keeping us in our houses and stopping us from traveling, because the whole thing is coming down, the whole financial system. And why is it so important? Well, because half of all commercial transactions that everyone does involves the currency. So if the currency is going to collapse, uh, society breaks down, and I think they know it's going to happen, and they're using the crisis as an excuse to be. That's what I think is happening. It's very hard to know exactly what they're trying to do. I know they're trying to bring in the reset and the great reset, but I also think they're trying to use it as because it's difficult to understand why are they doing this if this virus only kills if 99.7% of the people that catch it survive. Why are they going through all this these draconian rules and locking down economies? I think it's because they know that the post Bretton Woods system is ready to implode, and they have to have people under control, because if they didn't, it would be a lot worse. There are protests out there, but it would be even worse, I think. So I don't know. Yeah, John Lucas. Yeah, they're all always inflate, don't they? They always inflate, and most people don't realize. Most people think that inflation is rising prices, so they don't, that they don't blame the real culprits, which is the monetary system and the government, and that's why banks and governments hate sound money and honesty, because inflation really is is a way to is theft. Inflation is theft. It's like you tell someone, "Oh, I'm going to give you this if you work for me. I'm going to give you, this mug, right?" And then they come after you finish and they give you a mug that's half the size. They've cheated you. Inflation is just basically cheating. But we've been, well, not us, of course, hopefully not. Uh, but we've been tricked into thinking that inflation is something that happens and that's normal. It's because prices are going up. No, it's because they're destroying the currency. They're like stealing from you. That's how they do it. But if we went back to a free market system where we could use real silver coins, real gold coins, it would be very hard for them to cheat. That's why they hate precious metals, right? Because they can't cheat. You can't print money, LFC Liverpool. Money is a commodity, so I'm sorry. They're printing currency. I'll take some more questions. We've been here for an hour, so I'll take a few more questions. Il Prepper, YouTube will ban you. Well, I haven't had any videos deleted by YouTube. I did have a video about a week ago. They gave me a yellow $sign, which means limited advertising revenue. But they did that actually a lot, like about a day after that video had been published. So I actually made the advertisement, but that was the first time in ages that happened. So Neo Paybo, have you ever considered the concept of using stocks as an alternative to traditional currency, like using fractional Apple shares instead of dollar? No, no, no. I would never consider using fractional Apple shares. Not at all. uh, you know, not as a currency. It's an investment. When you buy a share of Apple, you're buying ownership in Apple, the company. It's not a currency. It might survive the hyperinflation, Apple shares, but they're still just shares of, it's a stock, a share of a company. That's not a currency. A currency is how money circulates, right? You could have silver, which is money, circulate as a currency through coins, right? Or you could have it silver certificates, notes. I prefer the real thing, but Apple shares will never be currency. I mean, you can use them maybe to yeah, in case of a collapse, they could, people could say, yeah, I'll have your Apple shares, and you can take my house. But I think it would be it wouldn't be something that would happen all the time. Of course, they make more sense than Bitcoin because it's a business. NeoPaybo, I agree with you. And even in the cryptocurrencies, some of the platforms that have used the blockchain, like DTube, like BitChute, like Library, like Hive, they make more sense to me than Bitcoin because at least you have a use for those platforms. Doogie says, kick that LFC guy out. No, I'm not going to block him. I mean, he's not really, how can I say, being rude or anything. I let him have his opinion. I'm not going to do that unless he was swearing and like using foul language. And I would, I don't think it's necessary. Matthew Smith, I have. I mean, I've read the books about the Weimar hyperinflation. Yeah, I've got a book in my shelf by Adam Ferguson, and yes, I've looked a lot into it. And one of the things about the Weimar hyperinflation is that the main ingredients, I think, were uh, a lot of debt, right? And then the central bank started monetizing uh, deficit spending. They had a lot of political mayhem. The emperor, the Kaiser, had abdicated after World War One. There was a lot of political uncertainty in Germany. Germany was almost breaking up, like Bavaria was trying to break up. There was political assassinations. Yeah, and yeah, everything that could go wrong was going wrong in Germany, and it kind of reminds me of what's happening today, really, and that's why I think we have a lot of the symptoms that they had back then. They're not exactly the same. They had a lot. The other thing that people don't realize, people were living off speculation during Weimar Germany. The stock market was doing really well. Well, Robin Hood and all the speculation, all the gambling that happens today, those are all symptoms. Why do they keep printing? Um, because they thought that yeah, believe it or not, they thought that the more money they printed, the less prices would go up. So there you go. And then people lost confidence, and they wanted uh, the banknotes. They didn't want to leave the money in the bank. They wanted to get rid of it. So they had to print the money. It was just a snowball effect. I think this time it could be different. You could see people getting out of their electronic entries in their bank accounts directly into real things. Okay. Yeah, I'll do another 8 minutes. We'll do an hour and 15 today. So we'll keep going. What are your thoughts on so-called resets? Well, you know, the globalists, they've stolen the reset word to add it to the Great Reset. I don't think that's going to happen. Their Great Reset is with wishful thinking, but we are seeing, we are going to see a reset from paper assets to real things. And I've said many times that when the Dow to gold ratio is at 1 to 1, then the reset will have happened. I think commodities are just starting to move. Commodities are at the most how can I say, undervalued versus the stock market in about 120 years. So I think the reset is actually just starting, really, even though actually you could argue it started in 2000 because the Dow gold ratio was at 46. Now we're around 15, 16. But yeah, I think the reset will be a rebalancing from things financial to things real. We've gone too far into paper and finance, and that's when I think that's how I view the reset. It's not like a current, it's not the great reset from Davos. I don't see it like that. Full of hope says food, 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 gold, silver, cash, solar power. Okay. Yeah, I agree with those. I don't have solar panels though. Craig Hoffmeyer, do you think you mean the Bank of England? Because the UK, yeah, I guess the UK will be introducing a central bank digital currency. They could, especially, I mean, they might need to. The only reason they would need to do that if there's a banking collapse, and that's that's something that's pretty. It could be very probable. European banks are in deep trouble, and I think 2021 is going to be even worse than 2020 uh, economically and for the markets. I think we could see, the hangover from 2020, the real hangover, because right now they're patching things up with all these programs, with deficit spending, but they can't do that forever. So I think we're going to see a lot of bankruptcies, and a lot of banks are going to be in trouble. So they might have to send uh, currency directly to, you could have an account with the bank. Everyone might get an account with the Bank of England because the banks might go under. So that is possible, but they're not going to be cryptocurrencies, or they're not going to be decentralized. And yeah, people might accept them because if everything else fails. But eventually, I think the whole world will have to go back on a real monetary system, and by that I mean gold and or silver. See, Xavier, how can gold and silver be used as money currency in the tech age that we live in? Well, it's already been used by Glint. If you've heard of Glint, the Glint app, and it's much quicker than Bitcoin. Check out Glint. I have a referral code, Mario Glint 79. Basically, they store your gold in Switzerland. You can use it through a MasterCard directly to spend your gold. You can even send your gold peer to peer, as little as £1. So it's like texting you. If you Glint, you have to trust. Well, if we don't have trust in the world, what's the point of doing business with people, right? Can we trust the people, the block producers for cryptocurrencies? What if their electricity goes down? Can we trust them? So, but why can't we have? Why can't we use coins again, gold and silver coins? I don't see why. Just because we have technology, and you see, Glint and gold money, for example, are one of the few who do what they do, but competition solves the problem of trust. Because if you're not trustworthy, you're going to lose business. I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll see. Chris Conman, thank you for your super chat. Chris Conover, Merry Christmas. Which has a more positive effects on the gold price, QE or the dollar collapsing? Thanks. Well, I think the dollar collapsing is a result of QE, so they're both related. There's a really good because there are some people who say that QE doesn't really create any inflation, that the stock market hasn't gone up because of QE. But I highly recommend you go to Best Evidence, John Titus on YouTube, Best Evidence, and listen to his last video. He explains how QE really is inflationary, at least for the stock market. And I think what's happening now, sorry, let's see, Chris, is that all the money that's in the stock market, there's a lot of money in the stock market, of course. We are all-time high, very near all-time high. And I think people are going to start moving into real things, into commodities. And that's what people usually associate that with inflation. And I think that's what's happening. So yeah, QE but it's not, the dollar is going to collapse, not just, it's not just the dollar that's collapsing, it's all fiat currencies that's collapsing. At the moment, though, the dollar is falling faster versus other fiat currencies, but there will be a time when the other fiat currencies are going to drop versus the dollar. It looks like the dollar is going up, but it's not going up. because versus gold, they're all going down. So that's how I see it. Okay, one more question, and then I'm going to call it a day. An hour and 15. That's a long one. Yeah, gold opens, the gold futures opens at 11 p.m. That's right, on COMEX. Bifford. I mean, for all intents and purposes, even though the private banks are the Fed, regional banks are private. They are working together with the Treasury. It's not a government of the people by the people, but they are really going out of control now. The Federal Reserve and the Treasury. So everyone, thank you for showing up. I hope this worked well. The microphone with the stand and this lollipop thing. And next time I'll put it on the other side so you can see Billy. Oh, Comex is a complete LFC. Comex is a complete bucket shop, and the reason the gold futures contract started on December 31st, 1974, which was one day before gold was legalized again in the US. So it's not a coincidence that they started trading futures the day before, because the banks use the futures to manipulate the price. And unfortunately, it keeps a lot of people out of getting physical gold. And I think that's why you need to get physical. And yeah, if you want to trade the futures, fine. And I've done it before, back when I worked in the city, but I wouldn't touch my physical. And it's just fun and games trading gold futures. But when the system implodes, you don't want to be holding gold futures because you'll be holding nothing. So there you go. Everyone, take care. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.